Join us as we travel back in time to the golden age of rock and roll, where four young men from New Jersey harmonize their way to superstardom in the Tony Award winning musical sensation, Jersey Boys. Jersey Boys is a jukebox musical with a book by Marshall Brickman and Rick Ellis. It is presented in a documentary style format that dramatizes the formation, success, and breakup of the 1960s rock and roll group, The Four Seasons. The musical itself is structured as four separate seasons, each narrated by a different member of the band who gives his own perspective on its history and its music. In the early 2000s, Bob Gaudio, an original Four Seasons member, sought to make a musical from the band's discography and was inspired by the successes of Smokey Joe's Cafe and Mamma Mia, believing that a rock and roll musical with existing songs could actually work. He then went on to hire book writers Rick Ellis and Marshall Brickman. Brickman suggested creating a show about the band's history instead of repurposing their songs for an independent story the way ABBA did with Mamma Mia. Now, fun fact, it was Bob Gaudio who came up with the title for the musical on a plane ride, reasoning that the band members were all just a bunch of Jersey boys, and the name stuck. Now, little was known to the public about the Four Seasons history before the musical because, well, magazines of the era did not write much about them. In their research, Brickman and Ellis were surprised to find, however, that the members had prison records, which might have actually prevented their music from being played if it had been publicized at the time. According to Gaudio, back then things were a little clean cut. Don't forget, so the idea of our story getting out was horrifying to us. Now, it is important to note that other bands of the time projected street tough images, but the Four Seasons cleaned themselves up to be palatable to mainstream listeners. Brickman and Ellis then used material from interviews with surviving Four Seasons members Gaudio, Frankie Valli, and Tommy DeVito. Nick Massey was aware of Gaudio's plans to make a musical in the last months of his life and enthusiastically approved of the project. Unfortunately, he would die in December of 2000, thus not being able to contribute anything to the musical's creation. While the Four Seasons as a group made headlines, as individuals they did not receive much press, as groups like the Beatles dominated the media. Brickman noted that each member had his own perspective on what happened during their tenure as a group. Of the three surviving members, they approached DeVito last, who told them, "Don't listen to those guys. I'll tell you what really happened." Ellis said that getting DeVito's version was a aha eureka moment, and the contradiction in their stories was incorporated into the musical. Gaudio may have been part of the initial development team, however, he was not involved in the creative process during tryouts, and would actually meet the cast only after the show had premiered in San Diego. He, Valli, and DeVito decided to step back from the show's creative process because they lacked objectivity, leaving it to Brickman, Ellis, and the show's director Des McAnuff to take the story to the stage. In October of 2004, Jersey Boys would open at the La Jolla Playhouse at the University of California, running through January of 2005. The cast starred actor and California native Christian Hoff, Cuban-American actor and director David Nerona, and Tony-nominated musical theater and television actor J. Robert Spencer. By November of 2005, oh, what a night it became when Jersey Boys officially opened at Broadway's August Wilson Theater, running for 4,642 performances, starring both Christian Hoff and J. Robert Spencer from the La Jolla Playhouse production, as well as welcoming future Tony-winning actor John Lloyd Young. The musical would go on to win the Tony for Best Musical as well as the 2007 Grammy Award for Best Musical Show Album, proving Jersey Boys was here to stay. Ben Brantley of the New York Times wrote, "The crowd goes wild." I'm talking about the real, mostly middle-aged crowd at the August Wilson Theater, who seems to have forgotten what year it is, or how old they are, or most important, that John Lloyd Young actually is not Frankie Valli. And everything that has led up to that curtain call feels for just a second as real and vivid as the sting of your hands clapping together. In October 2010, New York City couldn't take its eyes off Jersey Boys as it actually donated $1 from every ticket sale sold at every Broadway performance to VH1's Save the Music Foundation, ultimately raising $43,521 to restore the instrumental music education program at PS 85 in the Bronx. By February of 2008, Jersey Boys became the big men in town when the production opened at London's Prince Edward Theatre, starring British actor, singer, and songwriter Ryan Malloy, Olivier Award-winning Scottish actor Stephen Ashfield, musical theater actor Glenn Carter, and actor, director, and producer Philip Bulcock. The production would not only go on to win the Olivier Award for Best New Musical, but Ryan Malloy would perform as Frankie Valli for 6 years, making him the longest running star in a West End musical and the longest serving Frankie Valli in Jersey Boys history. In March of 2014, the musical would transfer to the Piccadilly Theater, where Broadway's John Lloyd Young would take over as Frankie until its closure after 9 years in the West End in March of 2017. Benedict Nightingale from The Times said, "Oh, what a night. There were times when I felt that the performers were making even the Beatles sound somewhat lacking in musical texture." After its closure on Broadway in January of 2017, it was announced that the musical would reopen off Broadway at New World Stages in November of that year. The production featured the same script and score as the Broadway production, but four fewer cast members, a smaller theater, and of course, lower ticket prices. The show would be suspended in March of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, reopening in November of 2021, eventually announcing its closure by November of 2022. Now, backing up to 2014, Jersey Boys would actually leap from the stage onto the big screen, directed by actor and film director Clint Eastwood, and starring John Lloyd Young back into the role of Frankie Valli, which made him famous on the stage. Actor and singer Eric Bergen, film, stage, and television actor best known for his portrayal of gangster Lucky Luciano in HBO's Boardwalk Empire, Vincent Piazza, and two-time Tony winner Christopher Walken. From 2006 until today, Jersey Boys has performed and toured in countless cities across the United States, touring in more than 9 countries and also on the high seas, performing on the Norwegian Bliss cruise liner. As a special tribute, here is a look back at those who have played these iconic roles on the stage. John Lloyd Young, Ryan Malloy, Christopher Cale Jones, Jonathan Vickers, Ben Joyce, Michael Pickering, Daniel Reichard, Eric Bergen, Stephen Ashfield, Matt Blaker, Adam Bailey, Blair Gibson, J. Robert Spencer, Michael Ingersoll, Philip Bulcock, Nick Martland, Carl James Wilson, Lewis Griffiths, Christian Hoff, Devin May, Britain's Glenn Carter, Andrew Bryant, Benjamin Yates, Dalton Wood, Bobby Fox, Stephen Mahey, Scott Johnson, Bernard Angel, Cameron McDonald, Thomas McWayne, Glaston Toft, Jeremy Kushner, Tim Dreisen, Akinori Nakagawa, Daniel Buys, Kenneth Meyer, Emmanuel Castis, Grant Almiral, Andrew Rannells, Rick Fogno, Brian McElroy, Jeff LeBow, Sam Faraday, and Stephen Webb. Folks, Jersey Boys reminds us that even with internal struggles, true talent and dedication can lead to monumental success. I mean, in the words of Frankie, they ask it. What was the high point? Selling all those records, pulling Sherry out of the hat. It was all great. But the first time the four of us made that sound, our sound, when everything dropped away and all there was the music, that was the best. That's why I'm still out there singing. Like that bunny on the TV with the battery. I just keep going and going and going, chasing the music, trying to get home.